Hello, Michelle. How's it going today?
Hey, Lindsay, I'm good. I got this new mic.
I
I'm excited.
know.
I'm fancy, but I'm getting used to this view of it, in my face, but that's
It's
good stuff.
That's good stuff. The best quality
Like,
sound for
hello.
our listeners and
That's right.
fantastic, Michelle. Yeah, so Michelle, tell me a little bit about your neighborhood. If you walk along your street, what do you see in your neighborhood in New York?
Okay, so if I walk along my street, I will see lots of buildings. There's an Italian restaurant, there's a grocery store, very useful, convenient things. What about you? If you walk along your street, what do you see?
Oh, if I walk along my street, if I walk out there along the street, I can see the park, which I love that. I love being
Oh,
so close to the
awesome.
park. There's a coffee shop down the street, although it is a little bit overpriced, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
And then there's a bar next to that, and there's apartment buildings and houses, but it's pretty suburban urban, I would say. My neighborhood is.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
yeah.
good. That's good. Well, we are going to be talking about this word along today because we had a listener ask a question.
Yes.
This is a really good question. This is a super important word. So, this is kind of a little bit of a grammar episode today, focusing on the word along.
I know I'm excited because I think our listeners, this is one of those words that brings English together. You know what I mean? It brings
Yes.
other important ideas together to make a cohesive statement. So you guys need this. So we're going to listen in today for sure.
All right. Love it. All right. Go ahead, Lindsay.
All right. So here's the question from the listener. The listener says, best podcast ever. Can you make an episode about the word along? It's very confusing to me. I don't know how to use it. This is from Julio E3274 from the US. Good question, right, Michelle?
It is a great question. Yeah, this is a good kind of grammar question, like I said. So, we're going to talk through a few ways that it's used. There are actually tons of ways listed in the dictionary. But guys, we kind of like to focus a little
Yeah.
bit, right? We don't want to get too confused. We're going to focus on just a couple to get us started, and we can always do a follow up, like we said. So, the example that I gave in the beginning, we were talking about if you walk along your street, what do you see? So,
Mm-hmm.
this is along as a preposition, right? And that's going to be our focus for today. And
Mm-hmm.
again, like I said, we can do other follow ups. So, in
Okay.
the dictionary, Merriam Webster says one of the definitions is in a line matching the length or direction of. So, like walking along the road, right, Lindsay?
Yeah. So when I hear along, I think of definitely a direction. And when we think of it as a preposition, as we're talking about now, guys, I think of it as kind of tracing something, following something, right? A
Right, that's
straight,
true.
just following that road. So if I say I'm walking along the water, what does it mean, Michelle, exactly when I say that? Am I
It
walking on
means
top of the water? No.
no, no, no. I'm walking like beside it, like the length
Yeah.
of the water or the width of the water, I guess.
Exactly, exactly. A little stroll by the river, right? Michelle walking
Right,
along the river.
right. Do you
Hmm.
like to walk along the water?
If I can, there's not a ton of water out here, unfortunately, in Colorado. That's one thing. All the lakes are
Yeah,
fake. They're all reservoirs.
yeah.
And I always say, when I see a lake, I'll say, oh, it's a fake lake again, but there's a lot of mountains. So that
Right, you
makes up
guys
for
got
it.
plenty of nature. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, for me, I walk along the Hudson River.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
and
Yes.
there are beautiful views. And so I like to do that, although the Hudson River is pretty yucky.
Oh yeah, it's famous. Any city river, Rochelle, is definitely good. The Charles River. When I lived in Boston, it was
Yeah.
known, especially in the 70s and 80s, for being really
Oh,
dirty.
is that
So,
right?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, not great the rivers, but you can walk along them and kind of have a nice time, and it's peaceful, and so that's good.
yeah.
And then also the dictionary mentioned there's at a point or
Mm-hmm.
point on. So for example, they said a house along the river. So I might say to you, like, let's say, Lindsay, you were talking about that coffee shop that's along, your street. So
Yeah.
I could say to you, oh, are there any coffee shops along your street? Like, let's say I'm visiting you,
Mm-hmm.
we're hanging out, and I'm like, oh, I need a coffee. Are there any coffee shops along this street? Right? I could
Right.
say that.
I love that. Yeah, it's true. It might seem confusing, guys, but really it makes sense, right? Imagine I'm walking along Fifth Street and there is a coffee shop, right? So
Yes.
it goes along With that same idea of
Right.
following a line, following a street.
Right. And then what's one more definition, Lindsay, that the
Okay,
dictionary helped us
here's
with?
another great one for our listeners. In the course of. So this
Mm,
means making stops along the way, right? In the course
right.
of something. Right. Okay.
Right. So yeah, so this is really useful. So this is, I think, good for road trips or asking directions, right?
Okay.
So for
Mm-hmm.
example, I feel like this one is pretty common. If I say to you, I'm sure there will be a bathroom along the way, but maybe we should go before we head out.
Right. So that means somewhere on our way during our journey, there will be a bathroom along the way.
Right.
It's a little bit vague, right, Michelle? When I say that, where is it going to be? I don't know.
We don't know. Just
Yeah.
at some point, right? It will happen.
Yeah. And we know, guys, that this could be a little confusing. So we have lots of examples for our listeners today, don't we, Michelle?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
So we're
Mm-hmm.
going to focus on this one and do some more examples for you.
Yeah, good stuff. We're going to get to those examples in just a second. Okay, Michelle. All right, let's get into those examples. Here we go. Little role
Okay.
plays here. Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go.
All right. Michelle, where are you?
I'm driving along First Street. Have you seen that beautiful new building?
Oh, yes, it is amazing. Okay, so that really holds up for our rule here, Michelle, right? It's the idea I'm following First Street. I'm kind of parallel, or I'm on First Street. I'm following it, right?
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next one. Here we go. There was a store along that street over there.
Oh, should we stop in?
Yes.
Good. So a store along the street. So could you also have said, Michelle, there was a store on that street over there? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, you could say, oh, there's a store on that street. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think those two things are different, or is there a
Yeah, that's
difference?
a good question. A store along that street. I think they're pretty similar in this case. I can't really think of much of a difference. Can you?
I don't think so. Sometimes I think, we want to try and find the
Find a
difference, and
difference.
like we
Right.
work really hard to find it, and then it's like,
Not there.
it's mostly fine. Yeah, there might be times when one might sound slightly better than the other, but I don't think. Sometimes I think it's easy to just get confused if we search too much. Like, oh, there
Yeah.
has to be an answer. I think they're both good.
Okay, then we'll go with that for our listeners. I love it. Let's go for the next example. Here we go. I've made many mistakes along the way, but I try my best to learn from each one.
Same here.
So here, what's the feeling? The feeling is kind of along the way. What is the way?
Right. In the course of something, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
goes to that definition, in the course of,
Right.
right? It's not like it's more of an idea, right? These
Yeah.
mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Necessarily that, like, more so than when we talk about like a bathroom along the way. Like there'll be a bathroom along the way. And, so I think this is also kind of a chunk, I think, along the way.
Along the way. Right. And when I say that in that context of that example, I think about maybe I'm talking about my career, right? Along the way, during my career or during my lifetime. It's a particular period of time in which you were doing something, right?
Right. Yes,
Yes.
exactly. So, do we have time for a couple of conversation
Of
questions?
course we do, Michelle. We have time. We have time. Let's go for it.
All right. Well, we were already talking about the water, like a river, but what about the beach? Do you like to walk along the beach? Like I feel like I know you're more of a beach person than the pool person, but do you
Oh,
like to
yeah.
walk or run along the beach?
I do. Running on the beach is really hard, or running along the beach, also can say that, is really hard. But I like to take, sunset walks along the beach, very romantic. So, yes, I like that. What about you, Michelle? Are you that kind of person?
I do. Yeah, well, I don't really like to sit at the beach for too long. So
Right.
but I like to walk along it. And
Yes.
like I get bored sitting on the
Yeah.
beach for such a long time, but I'll walk along the beach, and I do like that, especially like you said, at sunset. That's nice.
Yeah, it's fun, especially like I'm sure with your kids, if you take them to the beach and they're always like, playing in the waves, and then
Yeah.
the water comes up and they scream and then they run out. It's just fun. Being on the beach is
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Good
Okay, next
times.
question. Is there a favorite store you have along your street? I know you have an expensive coffee shop, but is there some store or another kind of shop?
Oh, a favorite store. There is a sandwich shop that I really like called Snarfs. And that is actually not along my street, but it's along a different street, which is a few streets down. And they have just local sandwiches. You know what I mean? Like burgers, veggie burgers, sandwiches. I love a
Oh,
good
nice.
sandwich, Michelle.
Yeah. Oh, me too. And for me, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of like my favorite places in my neighborhood. I mean, I do like that Italian restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, there's just so much. There's a good toy store that I take my son to.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's cool. Is that along your street or is that kind of in another part of the neighborhood?
It's in another part of the neighborhood. I'll be honest. It's not along my street, but it's very close.
Yeah.
And then the last one. What are some things you've learned along the way in your work life or personal life?
Oh my gosh, big question,
Yes, I
Michelle.
know. This is a deep one.
This is a deep one. Well, what I've learned at work is that you don't always need to know the end plan. Like, you don't need to know 5 steps ahead. All you need to know is the next best thing to do right now. I think the way my mind works is that I force myself to sit down and figure out the whole plan before I take action, which is just a form of procrastination, actually. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Oh,
You
yeah.
think so?
Oh, yes. No question. I know so, Michelle. I know that I would much rather sit down and plan everything out, have a whole whiteboard with intense plans, right? Detailed plans that go out to 2024. But it's harder, it's easier to do that than it is to take that first step on the plan. So in 2023, I'm going to be taking more action, right? And less
Okay.
planning.
Nice.
So,
Yeah. Well, that's a really interesting thing. I never heard anybody describe like planning, like intense planning.
Procrastination.
That could be procrastination. Wow.
Oh, for sure.
But that's so deep. Like,
Oh,
that's so
Michelle.
true.
Yeah, and procrastination, it hides in unlikely places for me. I bet our listeners will feel this, right? It hides in list making. It hides in doing the easy little things, but not eating the frog, meaning not doing the big thing, the thing that's hard, but that will move things forward. It hides in places. I work really hard. I work a lot, but I do procrastinate at the same time, right? So it's really interesting, procrastination, I think.
Yeah, I had never thought about it like that. And
Oh,
eating the frog, I've never heard that before.
That's an expression in business that I've heard a few times. It means when you first wake up, right, eat the frog. Do the thing that is the hardest thing on your list, but it's the thing you know you need to do to move things forward in your career, your business. No one wants to eat the frog, but you eat it first, and then you build that momentum. You keep going. You feel really good throughout the day.
It kind of reminds me of the expression to bite the bullet, kind of. I mean,
Maybe.
I see how it's different, but like, getting something, I don't know.
Yeah, bonus expressions for our listeners
this is
today.
this is gonna be a bonus expression for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
Well, anyway, any takeaways, Lindsay, for our listeners? I think that kind of wraps it up, but this was a great question.
Yeah, this is a great question. Guys, don't get intimidated when it comes to prepositions like along. It's really not, we've shown you some things that seem about the same, like on my street, along my street. In many situations, those could mean the same thing. So don't get wrapped up in the paralysis of when to choose along. Just go with the general idea of what we're trying to say. I love that.
I love it. Yes. Okay. Well, that was good. We'll leave it there. Thanks to our listener again for that question. And thanks for hanging out, Lindsay.
All right, guys, don't forget to go ahead and hit follow. Hit that follow button on All Ears English, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or if you like YouTube, this episode is on YouTube today. So we'll see you guys over there. Good stuff, Michelle. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, Lindsay.
Bye.